health and medical, utilities, public safety, communication, coordination, logistics management, food and shelter. Those are support functions that we feel we need for the first 72 hours before anybody can get to us. And between the small of us, we know that 72 hours is a pipe dream. So we're super excited to get those functions up and running. That's going to make us a resilient team. So that was our first pick. The second thing we did was talk about when we were going to need them. And I had an interesting meeting. For those of you who weren't able to make it to and I'm sorry you can't see this so well over there. For those of you who weren't able to make it to the community meeting, I walked them through a similar exercise that I walked you guys through with picking out the when do you need it, broke them into 3 different groups, and had them fill out these charts, which is essentially the same thing you guys did. Do you remember this? So we filled out when we were going to need the things, the logistics, and the health and medical and that stuff, and they put it on a timeline. I broke them into 3 groups. We have 3 of these. A couple interesting things came out of this. I was super fascinated by. Number one, they came up with a very similar timeline to yours, almost identical. And they came up with the same timeline in all 3 groups, which tells me a couple things. The first thing is we're all on the same page. Probably the most important thing is that we're all on the same page. And the second thing is that's what's going to happen whether that's the plan or not. So I'm glad that this is what we're doing. We're formalizing what happened organically, and it seems like that's what's coming together. So now we have not only our roles and responsibilities, we have our timeline, when it's all going to roll out. This is essentially what's going to become our activation piece, right? So this is our timeline, and today we're going to talk about where. Where. We started that conversation when we were together. And these are the facilities that we identified. There's a skateboard here. I'm inclined to jump on it, but I will not. I've really not had that kind of fun. And these are the facilities that we identified. We talked about this could be here, this could be there, this could be in the communications, this could be health and medical. We talked a lot about that. For the purposes of starting off today, I just listed the facilities. Because I think what we need to do is talk about a plan A and a plan B. So plan A is where we think it should be because it just makes sense, right? So we're going to go by each one of these health and medical, utilities, public safeties. It's important to note that not every function needs to have its own space. Matt and I talked about health and medical, and we talked about it being mobile, because having a center is great down the road. Having the mobility to go check on people in the houses might be a more initial approach. So maybe the Adabo clinic becomes cooperative. Maybe, I called them, by the way, we should have that talk separately. Maybe, but maybe it doesn't matter. I mean, ultimately, maybe it is a couple of EMT paramedic bags held in the Red Hook volunteers, or in a stockpile warehouse, or in visitation. No, you're going to put everything in the basement, and we're going to lose it all.
No, because we are redoing the basement, and we are putting things that
In the basement.
water should not come out. We are isolating it.
I love it. That's beautiful.
And we can have meetings there because we could fit up to 300 people.
And the meetings are important as well. I mean, we need to identify meeting places, and that should be our next meeting. The next meeting, once we identify where all of these functions are going to convene, in a plan A and a plan B, we will then talk next week at length, I think it's actually 2 weeks from now or 10 days from now, about walking it through and what the meetings look like. Because really the important thing is to have regular communications, and if that doesn't need to have a meeting every 12 hours, then you have a daily meeting, or you probably need a meeting every day at least. But you don't need to have 6 meetings a day, because that is redundant. And you can have the same people in one meeting, long conversation for another meeting. Today we're going to assign these in a plan A and plan B. So everybody sitting over here in Victoria are plan A. Everybody sitting over here and Murph is plan B and blue. Blue. And these are your maps. And what I would like you to do is think about the facilities. We're going to go through Plan A and Plan B as a group. Where you think these should be based on these facilities, okay? Where it makes the most sense right now, okay? Where it makes the most sense, that's the conversation. So talk amongst yourselves. Wait, I didn't do boys and girls on purpose, that just happened. I just want you to know.
But we're both Plan A's, right?
Yes, right now just think in terms of, yes. Yeah, it's not Plan A, Plan B, we're gonna get to Plan B in just a second. We're gonna decide Plan A and then we'll come out and do the next one. Yeah.
Where do we write it?
Sorry.
Sorry, we're picking where those things should happen and what. And what site.
We're gonna ultimately, if you guys just take notes, we're gonna ultimately put it on that actual map over there, but if you guys can put your thoughts right here.
One's gonna be the back,
Yep,
right?
exactly.
That's what to think about. We're not thinking about the back, we're just thinking about the main.
You guys could write your results here.
We're both thinking about the main plan and then we'll figure out what's A and B.
Yeah, we're doing this twice tonight. Yeah. We're gonna do, this is Plan A we're focused on now, and then we're gonna do Plan B. So talk amongst yourselves, right here. Support functions, facility.
Ideally. What we could do ideally
And then go back to you.
Are we allowed to write backup places first and second choice?
Yeah.
Can you give first choice?
No,
second
just
choice?
Plan A right now. Just Plan A.
Okay.
Just Plan A.
So ideally it would be a done. Stop cheating off of us. Okay, utility.
Okay, so these are the support functions. I guess you just want to think like logically where they'd be best housed and protected. So for which one? So we have six over there. So for communication
maybe not. You
coordination,
tell me.
you want to be a place that's
Remember,
wired
we
up,
changed our
good,
public
right?
safety to be more of the
So that's
emergency
like an
response.
RHI versus say a church. which
And it
would
may
be
be that they have
SOS.
multiple
RHI
locations all the time.
Yeah, I bet you RHI could end up being like volunteer coordination, you know? It could, in which case, that's
Probably communication.
And that's kind of raised too, and
maybe food and shelter here, if there's so much space.
Yeah, so at least during the Sandy stuff, it was some combo of like here and the churches. The thing with the churches, they have huge kitchens. That's huge kitchens. That's where a lot of the cooking was done. So let's just say,
But the weird thing about the churches is that they don't have refrigeration, so they could never have leftovers or
that's
have
true.
extra cut.
That's a good point.
Building church.
Ideally,
Mikio, what was the church situation that was on there?
And school.
This is visitation. There's churches on that list over there.
Okay, well, do we have multiple stations?
Visitation and NBC.
That's great.
Oh, it's fine.
I think they would like
list, RHV is not on this list, your place is not on this list.
It just kind of plays out weather-wise.
Do you want it to be, I think it would be RHI and Redwood
Yeah,
Forest
here
here.
it's dry.
Yeah.
Right, and then, that's kind of what it was, that was like, that's sort of what it was.
Yeah. Faster because it's early, the spaces over that way, even south of,
Right.
even IKEA.
So-
Maybe like, maybe not even necessarily for second, two different things.
I mean, along with that though, it might not be water, it might be like, there's no power, right? So IKEA's gonna be back up, Fairway's gonna be back
There
up.
should be two places, right?
Yeah, I think so too.
Station
Yeah,
and,
but I'm never like,
But maybe,
not that function.
As we did last time.
dissertation and, Calvary.
Or, let's just say,
How big is Calvary?
Big.
where would that go?
Calvary's big.
Like,
Food distribution. Why is it called New Brown Church? Maybe Calvary.
Sir,
I don't know, it's on the list, I don't even know where that is.
Sir,
Yeah, I don't know,
here
I
last
think it's
time,
planned
so-
like Calvary, because that's the one right across from.
Not
the
Calvary.
I think it also
It's
might be
something,
the-
it's not here, it's up
Oh,
on,
it's in like,
it
in the
used to be
field,
something
right?
else. Do you remember the
Yeah.
conversation?
Yeah.
It's a new church,
We
but
know
it used to be
people
something
that
else,
do.
and it's
That's
up
what we
over
said
by,
last
the jalopy,
But
it's
somebody
on
wants
that,
to talk
it's
to the
on,
police.
it's not down
Yeah,
here.
like the years in the 70s.
Yeah, it's like a new Brown Church, like an old store, but
Near
it's
the-
converted from
near the
something that everybody knew to
oh,
New
so
Brown
it's
Church.
not huge, like Calvary.
We should have.
Yeah, it's not like, it's not like
Beyond
dissertation,
this.
it's not like, yeah.
Calvary should be on this.
Put it up there. You can write it in.
Bumps up against.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe here.
Yeah.
it doesn't all have to be green.
You don't want to mess with your list.
Well, I just did that so that I can clarify which one's which. I have a color code
Logistics
in
and
my head.
management, so that's like, that's really sort of the hub of a lot of stuff, right? So that'll be a place where everyone needs to be able to coordinate with each other, sort of central, right? The logistics and management, L&M.
The PS 27.
Doesn't matter. D, Calvary.
So what is accessible to all of these places, basically?
Calgary, is that Irish?
Yeah, Calgary.
Is that Canton, Clayton, Canton?
Yeah, Calgary, that's exactly what I was thinking of, it lives up there.
So yeah, I hesitate, like Coffee Park is right in the center, the problem is there's no like, you know.
What is it? PS 27 is where we are.
72 hours, you got to plan on.
I would just say the nice thing about all this stuff is that the school doesn't
Everything up front.
part of it, and there's like layer of liability that we might have to.
I would say
Yeah,
the
they
first
want
72 hours is good.
Bureaucracy, government.
Yeah.
They chose
Which one of the schools
outside
do best?
sign for sure.
And, PS 27.
Yeah.
Okay, you get,
Not much.
meetings there.
But I mean, in terms of us, like, the committee finding a place to meet, we don't know. I guess when someone may let us meet there, but we don't know.
Right, so, say there's
Are you guys ready?
relocation for the schools.
Yeah. Are you guys ready? Are the men ready?
Just 1 second.
Sure, sure.
Like 27 work, except they were PS 15 and PS 27.
Wait, no, no,
Wait
no, we're-
until after
Oh,
the
wait,
after
the way.
school and after.
I'm gonna make you present it.
I want
We're needing to dates that we have to
I was
that's
there,
what
we have
it's
to
gonna be.
do
There's
work.
something that's gonna happen, you know.
Community before that grant thing.
No, like full member.
The first thing they do is these kids out of school.
You're a full member.
You know,
Yes.
that. Right, but we're setting up shop for another 19-year run.
Yeah.
Kids will be
So
back
you
again.
filled out or what?
Yeah, I got
By
that.
that time, you know, by that time, you know, first responders will be there.
He's got something to get.
We have to.
I know why I volunteered for
I
this.
know.
I'm like,
We have to
running
fill
it
out
out.
30 hours. I have to see.
In all Victoria's spare time, she will now also be on.
I know, my God.
That is,
I know you
form you have to fill out to choose which committee you want to be.
Yeah,
I
probably do
haven't filled
conservation,
that.
landmark, land use and preservation.
Oh, that's
And
right.
then I think I'm gonna have a copy of Craig, so that's what I wanna do. I have a degree in preservation.
Oh, that's
That's awesome.
a big good.
I'm struggling with this just because I don't
That's a
know
really
whether
freaking unique degree.
balls on the spectrum.
They were, in emergency management, we're always looking for people with a degree in preservation, because when you're doing the recovery work, I mean, you can't just go into every building and reoccupy.
Right, yeah.
Historical landmarks
The only thing
especially
is it
is
would
like.
help.
I know a ton of people. It wouldn't be me. But I know a ton of people in
I'm gonna
preservation.
keep that in my
And I
memory
know a
bank.
ton of people that in preservation did, do.
Nice, I'm gonna keep that in my memory bank.
Yeah.
So I super hard to find.
Yeah.
Good.
That's the other thing. Rob said the judge said, what you guys think too, is like, wasn't everybody gonna go where they went last time anyway?
I mean, I'm just pressing the camera, I'm like, I get a picture of the picture
Let
man.
me go see what's up in RHI or at.
I'll take a picture of the guy with the
It's
camera.
so hot and humid, that's probably why.
You gotta smile.
I have no power, but it's after like a week.
So we got 5 trash. It's hard to know too much weather. I need to do some
The other thing
shopping.
is like, everything is like,
But I was freezing, like I left the house at 8 a.m. this morning, I was
Calvary,
freezing.
Nikio,
Sure.
hey, then
I only
everything's
ran
like
to
the same.
change the shower.
But everything. I don't know if that's good or bad, but it's good. I mean, it's the thing. Because IKEA is like probably a great place, but it's in far away. Yeah, who's gonna go there?
I think we could probably talk.
Ready?
Chit chat.
All right. So this is our goal. We're going to see where we have overlap, see where there needs to be discussion, and let's see if we can come up with what we will call Plan A. Here, Mark. I need a different color. Why don't we go ahead and do ladies first? Just because it's fun to say things like ladies first. It's far less sexist when I say it.
So we started with health and medical, and we thought the obvious choice was the Adabo Center. That's my secret. But hopefully they'll give us access. We haven't actually communicated, I guess. Is that the status of the Adabo? Is that to get them to?
Let's
agree?
worry about what people are going to agree to later.
Okay.
And let's pretend that the Adabo people really are excited about this
Okay.
process.
Well, it seems like an obvious choice because they're going to have all the medical.
Sure.
Utilities, we said IKEA.
Uh-huh.
Public safety, we said the MICIO.
Okay.
Communication and coordination, RHI.
Yep.
Logistics, RHI, and Red Hook Volunteers.
Okay.
And food and shelter, visitation, and camaraderie.
Okay. I'm going to hold comments and questions until I hear what we came up with on this side.
Yeah, so health and medical, operating under that assumption, you would say Adabo first, and then some combo of RHI or visitation second. Visitation maybe just because they're close to Adabo. Utilities, IKEA, just because they have massive infrastructure for utilities there, and then also, you know, whatever. Public safety, MICIO, communication coordination, RHI and IKEA, largely because they're the most wired.
Yep. Okay.
Logistics stuff, maybe PAVE, because it's sort of central and was kind of preserved from a enviro standpoint, whatever. Food and shelters, we wanted someplace like big to have big kitchens, and
Sure.
so the churches are obvious, and then MICIO is also a possibility.
Okay. So what made you guys, let me get over the women. Anyway, really, I called somebody on that a couple weeks ago, so now I'm going to take that hit. Logistics management, you guys picked 2. What was the thinking behind that?
For like 2 different sides of the neighborhood so that they can coordinate.
Okay, so literally having 2 functioning all the time.
Yeah.
Okay, do you guys have any thoughts on that? Because you guys picked the same, for logistics, you essentially picked the same, except for, no you didn't, you picked pay. That was the one place you weren't on the same page.
That was the only place we were on.
Okay, everything else is the same, right?
Yeah. Everything else.
Thinking behind not
Okay,
Yeah.
what was the thinking behind not choosing schools?
That there's bureaucracy and that we have to get an agreement with the Department of Ed and that kind of stuff. And liability.
They're not public schools,
Charter,
they're
charter
charter.
schools, so they're more than willing to support, chip in and help.
For sure. Do you, is that a request we can make?
I already did.
Yeah.
Boy, we
Okay.
was accepted.
Awesome. So we can function under the assumption, so if we know we can get paid, does that change any of the thinking on this side of the room? Do you have an argument for RHI and RHB?
One thing we seem to be a little allergic to is putting 2 things in the same place, which might not be a bad idea for certain things like logistics and communication. For
Just leave
example.
them in for communication and logistics and both like
Yeah.
RHI.
So I think that's clever.
I like that too.
The other thing we talked about is that people will likely gravitate to where they went last time.
Which is, except that we're having an exercise on the 6th that hopefully will rectify that, and because all of you guys are champions, and the thing is, we can only rectify it if every time I say that, you don't roll your eyes at it.
As much as we're champions, we're not gonna get 10,000 people there at the exercise.
That's true, but if we get 200 people there at the exercise, that will bleed into the community.
well, we wouldn't necessarily need to argue about it, but like the other 12,000 people are going to go where they went last time.
Okay.
You know.
So that being said, people are going to go wherever, and even if everybody came to the exercise on the 6th, people are going to go wherever, whether they went somewhere last time or not. That being said, the goal here isn't to anticipate where the people who aren't paying attention are going, but to where the people we're educating are going. So I think it's up to you guys where you want to. I like the idea. I think that sounded sound thinking what Matt just said about RHI and having communications and logistics co-located, but also having communications in more than one place is interesting to me. What was the thinking behind communications in more than one place?
Oh, so by comma, it meant we were undecided, not we
Or
were
I
actually.
either. Okay.
Victoria, how come volunteers instead of your place?
Well, because I didn't get put back on the list.
I didn't put them. I didn't know.
I
The
don't
list
know
is
why
not comprehensive.
that
Yeah.
happened. Ours is a little bigger and more open, but who knows if it'll be I mean, who knows? I might not be there.
Sure.
Trying to get it to you.
Tony's here all the time, but Jill has in no way said, yeah, open it. Yeah, we haven't had those conversations yet.
I'd be happy to do it, and like that's what happened last time. There were definitely places where communication and logistics happened that, I mean, you needed people bodies there. Like that's what happened when we had desks and people sat there and SBA worked. And like it wasn't a constant flow where people were showing up.
Right.
It was people that were trying to coordinate were showing up to come to work.
Okay.
It was actually like an office.
Yeah, it seems to me that makes a lot of sense. Logistics are going to be a group of people trying to handle stuff, and communication coordination is going to be like volunteer coordination and intake.
Right.
Okay.
Which happened at, I feel like a lot of that happened at the SBIDC space for dispersing on.
Who wants to draw on the map?
Those people on the other street.
Right.
Robert. Come on, communications man. Draw on the map. So let's see where we're in agreement. So we're in agreement on the health and medical, which is at the Adabo. Can you put a big dot wherever the Adabo is on that map? The real reason I made you do it is because I don't have my glasses. I can't see what it says on the screen.
It's the corner of King and Richard, you can hang a sign here.
Okay. That's super funny. Put a big dot there. Yeah, ish. We're gonna label it.
No,
It's on Richards.
Okay.
it's on Richard Street.
Yeah.
It's on Richard Street, right here. Yeah, it's right there. There you go.
Here, can you label it? Label the Adabo Center Health
We
and
should all
Medical.
know where it is, actually. So,
Adabo Center. They'll find it. Okay, so the second thing we were in agreement on is utilities at IKEA, which I think is just a no-brainer. They're gonna have all the juice. And they know we're having this conversation, and they know that we're gonna be looping them in at some point, so we're super excited about that. Yes, they know, and they're excited to be looped in. That's the most we've gotten from anybody right now. It is cool. It is cool. I don't know how cool it's gonna be, but right now it's cool. Okay, so we've got utilities at IKEA. Put a red dot on IKEA, please, Robert. This is an exercise for Robert in a big way. It's gonna be down here. This. It's gotta be down here, right? You're gonna label it. Well, this map is pre-IKEA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the old Todd shipyard. Should say shipyard.
It's the current map of the Burr President's office. I got this from the Burr President's office yesterday, 1902. I got it from the Burr President's office. I'm like, this is the most current thing you have? They're like, yeah. I'm like,
We should use this one.
On this side.
Yeah.
This is Van Brunt.
Oh, yeah, Eric Adams.
somewhere.
This is the old gravy
He's
dock.
getting around.
Yeah.
He's certainly getting around. It was super funny. This is current. No? I'm like, no.
That's a messed up map.
Yeah. You make sure you look to that next time you have it over there. All right, so the next thing we were in agreement on is public safety at the MICU. You know where the MICU is at? It's good exercise. That's like West 9 and the highway, basically.
Is the highway there?
Yeah,
All this is
so like right here. Like right here. This is it right here. It's that block between those two. Yeah.
1976.
Beautiful. Just label it. MICU, public safety. Okay. So that's MICU, public
Let's come back to communication and logistics for a second. Food and shelter. Food and shelter. Wherever you want it from. It's all good. Thanks. Everybody seems to be in agreement that it needs to be visitation in Calgary, and I have a feeling it's going to take the whole of the churches in the neighborhood to make that happen. So can you just make a note, actually, Robert, at the bottom of the map that food and shelter is going to be managed through the churches?
But the Mikio, you guys have the Mikio too.
As a possibility.
As a possibility.
I mean, that has a lot of, gyms.
What was the status of the MICU after the hurricane?
Okay.
It was fine?
Good.
Empowered?
Yeah.
And did they have, what happened here? I didn't know.
I wasn't over the
Senior center was here,
Yeah.
was here for a minute, and my office was here.
So you guys are functioning.
I just,
But in the first 72 hours, is that true?
No.
That took,
No, the people.
No, there weren't supplies here.
yeah, no, Mickey was
They
just
talk
fine.
about the night staff had to come and unlock it.
All right.
But it was locked out.
Yeah.
And Felix is very proactive in getting it open for distribution and stuff.
Yeah.
Nitro
Weird
was
when I stand behind you and talk to you, Dan?
Yeah, but now Good Shepherd does.
Is it weird when I stand here behind you and talk to you?
No problem.
Have to wait for that to open the door.
Okay.
So that's a consideration.
NYCHA let it happen because of the circumstances.
NYCHA holds the keys here?
Yes.
That's
Yeah, so
potentially,
now Good Shepherd is the operator, but NYCHA was at the time.
So Good Shepherd
This
is
is still NYCHA property, Good Shepherd does the program.
Is that true?
Good Shepherd should have the keys.
They can open it?
We have to double check.
But NYCHA's the landlord, so, they have to give permission, and they gave permission and let things happen that they normally wouldn't under regular circumstances.
right. Although we don't want to have to make like calls to three
this won't be
congressmen.
regular circumstances that this happens.
Well, luckily, moving forward, we won't have to make too many phone calls because people like Ortiz and Nydia will be more inclined to understand this process, hopefully. Which actually, there's two things that just came up right now that I want to just put out to you guys. There's two meetings being planned. One is with NYCHA, and we can get to the dates and times of it later.
Yeah.
It's a meeting, and I want the planning group to be involved in that meeting if it makes sense for your calendars. It's not on the calendar right now because we're working.
Since you brought it up, I just talked to Brian Conan, and so I told him the 17th,
Okay.
and he said, let us know what time is good for you guys. So if you guys choose the time you prefer, he can
Of this
have
month?
June?
June.
June
So
17th.
because we're having this conversation, let's just put this on our calendar. June 17th, but probably.
Yeah, I think it's Tuesday,
Do we
yeah.
have another meeting that week though? I feel like there's
We do.
The 19th.
This is in addition to the regular schedule. This doesn't take the place of the other stuff we're doing. So if you can't do both, it's okay. But I want to make sure that the purpose of this meeting, to be clear, is to loop them in on the planning that we've done thus far. The project list, where we're at with this readiness plan, that kind of stuff. Yes.
Is there an alternative to the 17th or just there's flexibility within the times on the 17th?
Flexibility
Okay,
with times.
so I'll just say the 17th and hope it works.
Happy to do it at 6, happy to do it later if it's easier for people to get here later.
Okay, here's another thing, is we have two separate emergency response people at NYCHA, so we should get both of them.
I'll move them, I'll say,
Yeah.
talking to Brian, move them into your
Because
conversation.
Brian was saying that this Mike Rosen, right, Mike Rosen is the VP for emergency.
So maybe I have the wrong.
So Mike Wilson is the NYCHA ERT.
Okay, he's, all right, they kept saying contact,
I don't know.
All right, well.
But if you guys can email each other and
Yeah.
figure that out and make sure we have all of them here, all of them,
Yeah.
not one or the other, but all of them.
Yeah.
Because they're probably siloed. and
But I
doing
mean, quick straw poll is, do people have a preference of times a day?
Late.
Evening, day, evening,
The latest people are willing to go. As late as people are willing to go.
as late as people are willing to go.
But that's just me.
6 o'clock, 6:30, keep it at 6. You don't care?
I mean, I'll show up if I can.
I didn't read I don't care, I got the whole it's okay. Anybody else issues with 6 o'clock on the 17th? Last fall, 6 o'clock on the 17th?
Okay.
Here, yeah, at the MICIO. If we can't get it at the MICIO, we will find another place, so TBD, but preferably here.
Should have, I'm gonna text them right.
Because we want to make sure that they get a picture of what we're doing. Remember, we have been doing this since January. You probably don't realize that we've been doing it that long. But we've been doing this since January. We've had 6 months with this. So you guys kind of get it. And actually, sometimes we all still have questions, right? So I would like to keep this meeting really succinct. Meaning, I'd love it if the planning group can come. I'm not trying to make this a public meeting. Does that make sense? Does anybody have issue with that? I'm fine for somebody to give me feedback if that sucks. Awesome.
I would be great to hear from them what their plans are.
Hmm?
We need to hear from what their plans are.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, it's gonna be an exchange, it's not just us, but that's what we're giving them this, and this is why we're here.
Have they had a public meeting themselves as they might to vet their plan?
They're supposed to, I don't believe they
But
have.
I think it's good that we get this in ahead of that,
First,
because you
yeah.
don't want a one-way street. And then this should,
They're doing their own planning process now, which is why
Right.
they're so excited to meet with us.
oh, I see.
So,
More resilient nature.
Yeah,
they are.
they
no,
are
they
excited,
They're
genuinely excited.
They are.
So that is good, so the 17th, so we've got that on the calendar, so awesome. All right, so we're gonna do food and shelter at the churches, which will be a separate group of whatever. So let's go back to communication and coordination. RHI, and IKEA, RHI. So I think RHI is definitely the pick. Does anybody have issue with that?
I don't
Other
really
than
know.
Jill, who doesn't know yet? What?
I'm thinking of, Heather was saying before about basically a workspace and also a meeting space, and how it was successful where it was at Realty Collective because it wasn't also everything else.
Right?
RHI was everything else, and all paths are going to lead there probably, at least in early. I know we don't want to anticipate, but
Sure.
a whole lot of like not here redirect will take up people's time from doing management of the logistics themselves. Just a thought. That, if you can put people in a bubble inside of RHI, have some people that are fielding the waves of people that will no doubt show up. And
Well,
I feel like that's a really great argument.
Right,
And
the one
also-
thing is we don't keep like personal, like there's no like somebody's office at RHI, like we don't keep documents or anything there they'll value that would be at risk for hearing or being rummaged through.
Concerns.
Right, yeah,
Yeah.
anything like that.
Well, there is like mezzanine, but also I'd say like if we can figure out if we'll have the night, if we'll have the MICU open immediately, then it's a block away.
Right.
Totally.
Just a sign on the door that says
Like one more block.
This way, that way, the other way. So Realty Collective seems like the go-to place with a Mikio back. Does that make sense for people or no?
The reason it worked really well is because there was two. You know?
Okay, so at the same time,
Yeah.
two.
Yeah, and different concerns.
Right.
So
So we were like, we had internet. I mean, that was the other thing, is
Sure.
we had internet, which made it super helpful.
That, yes. Yes, internet, power, and bathrooms. Okay.
A bathroom.
A bathroom, that works. Okay, so that makes sense to me. If everybody's in agreement, the Mikio and Realty Collective. Now you just didn't find it on the map, Rob. And that's for communication.
Okay, real close
Say-
between Walcott and,
What's that, Mark?
a block from there.
On Van Brunt.
A block from there is the school, where we took water but had internet and power pretty immediately.
The one right there on Van Brunt? Yeah. It's a high school? The high school?
A block from Realty Collective.
Yeah, of course. You guys have power? Do you guys have power?
We have power when the backup power, we have power on the
Put it on down. You know, that's really interesting. So we're gonna build a backup plan. We're gonna finish this. We need to have multiple buildings as an option.
Never mind.
Which is why I'm glad to hear so many buildings were actually functioning. You know what I'm saying?
So much of what we did was like extra, felt like a redundancy, so
Sure.
we can stay totally off the grid, just get back to doing school as soon as we can.
Sure.
There's so much space and we had power and we are wired.
My personal argument about using schools in general is exactly that. The easiest way to get a community back up and running is to get the schools open so the kids can go to school, so the parents can do their thing. It's the fastest way to come back from any disaster. And you can't do that if you're using your schools as shelters, if you're using your schools for offices, communications, or other functions. So that's my own personal emergency management lens. However, after a disaster, when you have limited resources, sometimes that works.
We
got
have
it.
break room and 2 conference rooms, they're like untouched by classroom space.
They have 795.
And I imagine whatever we put together in this plan and whatever we exercise on the 6th, people are gonna go where it's most convenient, because sometimes you just can't get it. It's actually quite a trek, so. Okay, so that's communication and coordination, and we have logistics management at RHI, RHV, and PAVE. Thoughts on that? RHI, RHV, I have to say this about RHV. It's 1 floor and it flooded.
There's nowhere to go inside it either way.
Yeah, I'd like to take it off the list if everybody's on board with that. I don't want to take Red Hook volunteers off the list, just their facility. Okay. Unless somebody's got like floaties for their arms.
They have no
So we'll just take it off as a facility. Yeah, you can buy rafts or. Okay. Sorry. All right, so logistics management, that leaves RHI and PAVE. Here's the thing about logistics management that I think we need to talk about, and now is the time. The stockpile. The stockpile. We are talking about logistics management in terms of where the generators are, where the flashlights are, where the first aid kits are, where the health and medical stuff is located, and any of the other checklists or any other odds and ends that we're going to need in order to pull all this off. Where's that?
I have a question. How much space does that take up?
I highly recommend, this is a little bit, it's going to wow people because my apartment's not even this big, 20 by 20. I know, my apartment's not even that big. It's
Did you
true.
say what did it again? What is the stockpile?
Sad and true.
What's the stockpile again? What does
It's,
it consist of? Sorry.
it's the emergency supplies. So flashlights, the medical bags that we'll need for the health and medical kits,
Right here.
generators, small ones, big ones, the radio flashlight windy things that I love so much, which by the way, I think Port Authority is going to donate 200 of them. I just want to play with it. Yeah, so those kinds of odds and ends. Does that make sense?
But I would say that what I think is more likely to happen is that all that stuff's going to come flooding in rather than us really having like a 20 by 20 room filled with stuff.
So yes, but it all flooded in after 72 hours. So we're talking about the first 72 hours. This is important lens because you are going to get a ton of that. That's part of logistics management is also managing, and it's not on this list. But actually, we've had this conversation a few times, so I'm just going to write it. It's also volunteers and donations. And a lot of that is handled by the churches as well.
A lot of it found on Monday and Tuesday.
Because people donate to the churches. That's where it shows up.
I thought I would put volunteers in communication and coordination. So I thought logistics management was like a group of team members who are like figuring everything out and letting people know. And communication and coordination is where people come to get their information and go where they need to go.
Tell you in a second. And it doesn't matter too, we can put it wherever if that's what people are thinking. But we do want to make sure we have an idea of where it's going to be. It may not have been clarified, actually.
Well, when people think of where are the tables going to be that are going to welcome all the people who come in to help, like where, I guess the first question is that communication coordination or logistics management?
That's a good question. Thoughts? What do you think, Dan?
I thought the welcoming of the volunteers is communication and coordination. Logistics is like, you guys are the volunteers, you're telling us the sites, and then we're going to tell communication, these are the sites that need volunteers.
So the volunteer manager, I think the reason, originally we talked about the champion for logistics is Javon, through Red Hook Volunteers. Because, not so, is Jovan, because Red Hook Volunteers has volunteered to manage the stockpile. That's how that conversation started.
And because of that, and because they are Red Hook volunteers, which is where all the volunteers are being managed through the last storm, that's how the volunteer conversation evolved into that space. Does not mean it has to live there. So I think this is a good conversation. Where does it live? Volunteer management falls under communication and coordination. I think coordination is the volunteers maybe. Okay, maybe scribble over here again.
And also that way the volunteers could be directed when needed through the communication.
Say it again, Sahna?
I said that way, if it is under communication coordination, the volunteers could be directed when needed because the communication group is in touch with every group. And
Okay.
is responsible to, so there's volunteers for food, volunteers for health, like they kind of managing that.
I think that makes good sense. Anybody dissent? Other thoughts on that?
Well, so aren't
You
there
can dissent
different
with yourself?
centers? Aren't there different kinds of centers of deployment of volunteers? So
72 hours.
Okay, so you want one at the very beginning. And
So
then it
the
gets
first 72
separate
hours.
out.
It's going to evolve. It'll evolve on its own. It'll evolve organically. Because people will come in and they won't just volunteer. Volunteers, they're not going to come in and be like, I'm a volunteer, where do I go? They're going to come in and they're going to go door to door. They're going to help people muck out their homes. They're going to show up at tents. They're going to show up at churches. They're going to show up at RH because they were here last time. They're going to be all over. But in that first 72 hours, for the community's coordinated response, we should try to have one place to coordinate that.
Who's the champion of communication and coordination?
Right. The man, the quietest guy here. That's awesome.
My thought was that logistics is like the brain trust that's watching over everything and talking to everybody. So they know everyone, they know what's going on. And they tell the communication group, this is where people are needed. The communication, sorry?
This is what to communicate.
Yeah, what to communicate. And the communication tells it to the volunteers or other person.
So the volunteers up the chain, down the chain,
So
government.
logistics needs like a smaller room that can be quiet but can be connected. Communication coordination needs a big room that can crowd a lot of people. Sure.
So those two spaces you just described to me sound like the small room at Realty Collective and a large space here at Medium. Does that sound reasonable?
Should they be that far from each other?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Because remember, the last time it was, communication was running.
Right.
People with notes, it was foot traffic.
And that's really what we're hoping to avoid by coordinating this now, so that, people like Reg doesn't have to run all over, get in, make
Right.
copies, and come all back. So,
What about logistics
and
at,
so Rob doesn't have to do it this time. It's just gonna be like, that's Rob's job.
logistics at RHR, RHI, communication at the McKeon?
Close enough?
I was going to say logistics at Realty Collective and communication RHI McNeil. I don't know. That's all I did.
Well, you want logistics and communication close to each other, right?
I mean,
Like physically
yeah.
close to each
Yeah.
other. It's a high, it's not that far, but.
Considering the first 72 hours, there's not gonna be, you're not gonna get yourself
Right.
under it that
It's
whole
always so cold
It
when
was
you're
crazy,
like,
Yeah.
who knows, I don't really want.
yeah, I don't know.
super funny. It was, in the first 72 hours, it wasn't freezing. It didn't get freezing until day 4.
I don't care what you
I don't know.
Day 4.
No.
Super
My whole
amazing.
standing stairs is crazy.
Okay.
I bought a special coat.
Yeah, I would say, like, logistics, because it's so crucial, Red Hook Initiative and communication coordination, all the volunteers. And it's also easy for people to get to.
it's close to the,
Nikki,
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. And then, but the
That's
only,
I would just say that the less people outside the neighborhood know what an NGO is. Like, they know what RHI is, but like, I think
Right.
RHI has much more of a presence outside of Red Hook than the NGO.
but yeah, and I think you're right, but it's only a block away, right? So,
Right.
and they're probably passing you on the way to RHI.
Right, because of the subway,
It's not-
it's running.
But
And who are we directing? FEMA? Or was
the other thing though is,
Send them back here.
like, I guess we just should point out that there's going to be people who are going to go to Van Brunt and there are going to be people who are going to go to RHI. And how is that coordinated? How does that work? You know?
All the more reason to have them close physically, actually. That's another good argument to keeping them physically, geographically close. Because that way you don't end up with a situation where you've got one thing happening on Van Brunt and one thing happening at West Nine. Because that is a nightmare scenario for your recovery, for your response, for when everybody else shows up to take over. You guys are completely split. You've accomplished nothing. You've
Yeah, this
created more
screwed us.
problems for
This screwed us
yourself.
multiple times. Stuff like food pallets were delivered
Yeah.
to like places we know about, and the food just sat there.
Right.
And, you know, so proximity is important.
So what do you guys?
It should be located at two different locations. You know, maybe hypothetically basics in the back, but you got people that are going to be, you know,
Where's Basics? Why am I?
not building it.
on Bay Street.
It's the new place they're building.
Yeah.
We don't know.
I'm not planning with that building in mind
Oh,
on purpose because it's not,
No, and
it's not structured yet.
It's almost done. It's prefabricated. They're bringing it in blocks.
But it's a private
They're
school.
already should be done by the end of the year. Yeah, it'll be done by September.
Are they gonna give us access? We don't know.
We spoke to them.
They agree?
Yeah, we got a community benefit agreement.
Well, they're probably
To do
working
this.
with Pace.
So
because
they
have
actually,
Yes.
boards
wait, but Wally, who signed the community benefit agreement? Actually signed it?
Who signed it?
Mm-hmm.
You want a copy of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so let's head back to
Because
the
I'm working
conversation.
with the community.
Um,
We'll talk later.
All right.
Yeah.
For the purposes of this, I hear you that it's going to be done by September, but I
We got
can't.
people that are handicapped, right?
Mhm.
In the back, just
Mhm.
like we do here. So why are we stretching ourselves so thin? We should have food and water set up 2 locations. People in Van Brunt, it's not gonna come all the way over here to get supplies, or people in fact, on.
But we're not
Fridays.
asking him to
Yeah.
because we have volunteer management to run it. But we're not asking him to. We have volunteer management to run it.
We're supposed to make it as easy as possible.
Yes, for sure, for sure.
I think what Wally's talking about is that people who live in Red Hook are going to go one way or the other.
Okay.
And if somebody goes to Miggy and they're like, you gotta go to Van Brunt, they're like, crazy, what? You know?
Exactly.
Yeah, I wouldn't say, but looking at the list of places here, that there's not any place that's sort of on the Van Brunt area.
Exactly, you gotta balance it too.
Okay.
But there
There isn't like
Isn't that
a-
even talking about
are reasons for that. Yeah.
We sit on that.
I mean, it should be like either PS15.
You guys are all part of
or
this logistics management because you guys are the transportation.
Justice.
So we have, on background alone, we have, visitation that's already over there, that, you know.
And they're on food and shelter.
We basically, well, food and shelter, we have, with the Grace, you know, we have extra space for other things. We do have a building that, I guess if we spoke to the pastor and everything, which is the old Lyceum building, that can be a good stockpile building because even though it's gutted out,
That's the building you wanted to show me
right,
last week.
yeah.
Mhm.
What about,
It's still a stable, building.
what about logistics at the rectory?
Rectory, yeah, I think we can handle it.
They got wires.
Well,
Yeah, we have a couple of rooms. We
Yeah.
have the chapel, we have the upper room.
right. They have a couple like big rooms that people can
Actually,
go.
that's right on the third.
But in those rooms, you don't have like racks.
Yeah, I don't-
But there are no like desks. There's not a lot of phones and things like that.
IT
You
might
make
be.
sure there's electricity.
So that's tough.
Yeah,
That's
we
tough.
got plenty of tables and chairs.
Sounds like a good stockpile room. Doesn't sound like it's good for functioning as a hub of any kind. Is that true?
It'll be, I mean, like I said.
Phones, internet, wired.
Well,
Internet, no, wait a minute.
That place is good.
Yeah. No.
Okay. I mean, maybe we don't have phones and internet and electricity anyway, so
The other day.
maybe that's not the issue moving forward. Okay,
But
so.
Definitely good stockpile food.
Okay, so let me just get this, and you guys can just give me the answer where we're at right now. So communication is going to be in 2 places.
Well, if we can, with our good friends at RHI, how you guys doing? We, like I said, I think we located the old overhead speakers that we were looking for before, that when we used to play Christmas music, it was just far as Hamilton Avenue. Now, if we wanted to send messages out to the people of Rebel, hopefully it can help them here. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our, whoever, if you live on this street to that street, please proceed walking to this for supplies. If
Sure.
you're in this here, please proceed over to visitation and so forth and so on.
RHI has the capability to do that?
They're good at it.
What about if what if it's like Mickey RHI and Realty Collective? And that's a pain in the ass because you got to go back and forth between those two, but there needs to be a presence on Van Brunt, right?
I think that there has to be some
There has to be
thing
presence
over
back here.
there. Unless we talk about Good Shepherd, I mean, that's kind
Well,
of,
Good Shepherd, Southbrook, when I was there as well, we needed the backup.
right.
But again,
But I think that would be like a, okay. I'm
Or
saying
the
that
backup
they're
is
like-
SPD.
Yeah. Or, I'm gonna throw this crazy idea, the second floor fairway, which is 10,000 square feet of vacant space.
The first 72 hours, that was really hard. We couldn't get in at all.
But you could get in there, call them now and create an arrangement, because they all live in Redwood.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 10,000 square feet of empty space for like the last 6
Tony's
years.
super excited to do this. Tony's super excited to do this with us, but I'm not entirely the general manager for
Oh, no, I'm talking about the old
Fairway.
I'm talking about above fairway, owned by the old
owned by who?
the old condo.
So this is where dance theater, et cetera, is.
Are they gonna have that power?
They have, their whole building has backup. They're self-sufficient.
Isn't Fairway like the lowest?
But they have a second floor
No,
that's for
I understand. But in the first 72 hours, there's still water. It'd be hard to even access the second floor.
That's true. But we're talking about, it could be a non-water event, right? That was like.
Could be
So it's
non-water.
a backup, but it can't be the primary because it's absolutely.
I'm just throwing it out there that we didn't talk about it, and it's like a totally
Yeah.
viable space
What
that.
is the name of that building? I just called it Fairway.
It's called the Red Hook Storage Building. But we do.
Stores?
Stores in the sense of doing what you want to do, which is stockpile.
Yeah.
So,
And you know, the windows are
I don't
arched,
know why
so
you
you
think
can
of it
go and lay
earlier
right into
when we were
the
talking about
building
space.
if you want to go.
but it's been empty
Get
for
a
like
horse.
6 years. They can't find a tenant.
Okay, that's super interesting. Okay. All right. We still haven't decided where. So we have 3 places. Let's put them all on the. Let's put them all up here. Communications. We've got Mikio, we've got RHI, and we've got Realty Collective. That's communication. Yeah. Okay.
I feel like that's logistics.
Yeah,
Like,
I
why
think
am
it's,
I- like, I feel like-
Mikio
I
is
feel like we're gonna
communication, logistics is you and RHI.
Okay, good.
Okay, well,
It's an idea.
so what?
Mikio is logistics. Say that again.
Mikio is coordination and communication, logistics is RHI and Realty Collective or SBDIC.
Because see, the benefit is the making is big. Even RHI is actually not actually that big.
Right, and people
More
may come to
space.
RHI, but you send them Mikio.
So what's CNC?
Power?
SBDIC.
They
Okay,
didn't have
CNC
power.
is SBIDC.
I don't know CNC. Oh, CNC.
Communication coordination.
CNC is just Mikio.
Oh, it's just Mickey. Do we need some mnemonic devices?
Almost track of our map. Okay. Let's.
CNC called.
What is the potential of stockpile? I want to capture this. I'm losing everything. What is the potential stockpile building? What is the name of that building? Rob,
Lyceum.
say it again.
The Lyceum.
The Lyceum?
Yeah.
Let's see if there's.
Or wrap some spelling around
EU.
L-I.
You gotta help facilitate communication. You see it's all getting crazy now. This is where you step in and be like,
Put it this way.
We'll follow up. We'll follow up. All right. Communication, coordination, logistics, management. All right, good. Food, shelter, communication, coordination, public safety, utilities, health and medical. This is our plan A. This is our plan A. I'm going to write it up here. You ready?
can we just not have a backup?
Plan A. Yeah, you get to think about this again. Are you ready? Plan A, health and medical. Jesus, read that to me. Can you read that to me, please?
Health and medical Adamo.
Adopt.
Utilities IKEA.
Utilities. IKEA, yeah?
Public safety McBeal.
Public safety. Uh-huh.
Communication and coordination, RHI and
Yeah.
McBeal.
It's right above you, right there, the blue on the bottom. So communication coordination,
Mickey O.
Make me up.
okay?
Logistics is RHI and real collected.
Realty,
Food and shelter,
RHI, food and shelter,
visitation and Calvary,
So do the ladies want to amend their?
or all churches.
churches.
So do you still want to keep ARHI for both of those things?
We have RHI for communication and logistics on this one.
We have Mickey O for two, not RHI.
We have Mickey O for public safety and Mickey O for communication coordination.
So
That's
how's Tony
the six.
feel about that?
I feel like public safety is combining.
I feel like this is plan
Well, that's
A.
what you-
That's what I feel like.
I think that's good.
I feel like this is plan A. So what I'd like to do now, in the 20 minutes next, is to think about plan B in terms of these buildings being gone. What buildings are they? IKEA will not be gone. I think IKEA makes sense for utilities no matter what. I want to see if we can get rid of the schools. I want to see if we can knock out the Mikio because I think it's overused. I think the churches we're already dedicated. Adabo is not going to be up and running anyway. It'll take forever to get there. RHI we're using. So now we have this. Yeah. What we haven't talked about are the parks, the ball fields, setting up externally. We haven't talked about moving outside of the immediate small pocket that is West 9th all the way over to the water. I would say maybe expand our search a little bit. So I'm going to ask you guys to take literally 10 minutes and come up with not per function, just come up with other spaces. Outside of that, other spaces. Here. Whose skateboard is it?
So what was that church that, what was that church?
Is it yours?
Occupied
Did you
City?
ever this?
No, you moved it there.
I did move it there.
We've got the new brown
Church
church.
should jump on it.
No, outside of Red Hook. What was that church in Sunset Park? Was it Trinity Lutheran Church? Which church was it?
Where?
In Sunset Park, there was a
So
distribution.
on South Beach, so do you want to get rid of bases, I thought? Don't you want her to get rid of bases? You don't like.
I can't remember.
This is
It's
a
not
private
built.
school.
We can't write a plan over a building that's not constructed. I'll show you.
They have like a school church up in Greenpoint actually. That I feel like should have coordinated with the one that's on the
Is that Chris
Okay, we got.
Yeah, you could put St.
You said buildings outside of
Or
Red.
second buildings we haven't used yet, maybe ones outside.
How we consider PS1?
Well, she said we didn't have to decide what
That's right over the bridge.
We just need to decide so they can do something.
We just need
You also
extra.
got
What
St.
about,
St. Stephen's.
What about Port Authority?
You got.
Or that's who you're at?
I mean, maybe it's a space we can, I mean, we're talking about Plan B here, maybe we have to make some calls.
Church.
We're talking about a huge space, like it's just, have sheds, like big tons of stuff.
We also have Mary by the Sea.
Trying to do that.
On 4th Street and.
Drive down, getting into buildings.
What about
I'm trying to like visualize them coming around the RC.
There's another school that's right next to St. Mark's and Stephen's.
Or she's saying ideas that we haven't thought of.
Carolina
Like things
and
that aren't
David
on-
Sharps.
Oh
I mean,
my
I know
God.
that they're not always the easiest people to collaborate with, but they have these boats that aren't really impacted by surge because they're boats.
Carolyn would love to set up a rescue situation.
I'll give her a half of this incident commander. I will just tell you this, the single best information I got about water tables and flood surge from
She's in
Carolina.
a second.
We use it in all of our surge stuff now because I met her right after the storm and we had like this at-length dinner over that. Wicked smart. A little disconnected, but wicked smart.
I won't say you said that last.
Yeah, I would say that.
She and I have recently a falling out. She knows how I feel. That's all it is.
Well, I never remember.
That's
You
all.
guys are both powerful personalities.
She's lovely. She doesn't want me on her boat. That was her thing. I don't want you on my boat.
Well, you don't have a twit card, so
Yeah.
you ain't going.
Well, it's like she doesn't want you on her boat. You can't get there because she's got to let you in. So I'm totally done. She's possibly one of the smartest people I've ever had a conversation with. I was wicked impressed.
What's the name of that?
Other ideas, guys? Come on, lady group.
Lady group and
St.
Thomas.
Same.
St. Thomas Aquarium. So he's writing that, I'm writing that. Or he's not writing that.
Oh, I know.
But
There
no,
was a
St. Thomas
distribution
Aquinas.
warehouse on 9th Street, but it was in the flood area near the Wallace Canal
John J.
that, that was used for transfer of
John J.
lanes and stuff like that.
Like by Golden Green or something?
Yeah, close to Building Green.
Yeah,
Well, let's put Building Green, but they flooded. But they got a lot of stuff.
I bought a lot of stuff from them. Like I bought all my
You
cabinets.
can put Building Green and the furniture place. What
You always
that
gotta be more
called?
surprised.
Yeah.
What about Lowe's?
That's good.
Yeah,
Yeah, Lowe's. Yeah, Lowe's.
Lowe's parking lot.
Yeah, Lowe's.
Lowe's, guys.
Yeah.
Stop stealing the right idea.
That's one. That's one.
That's how you guys are in
Did the same
Pepper, I think they got, did they, see, Pepper get flooded?
One block. Yeah. It's all
It's over by Lowe's.
I know what those is.
It's next to
It
Lowe's.
is the romantic.
I don't know the name of it. It's on 14th Street.
They have like a barge,
If only 700 people.
but they're barging out, recyclable.
We can borrow something.
But who knows?
Yeah.
On the canal?
Well,
In the
no,
first
it's
72
South Brooklyn
hours?
Marine Terminal, so it's right on the other side.
That would, I feel like in the first 72 hours, that would be hard to coordinate.
Yeah. We have good friends there. Like they have space, they have a lot of space there.
Any of the warehouses, you know, like what's around here, that, where they have the buses. The warehouse.
So we better call the state board, I bought them all.
What?
Can we go that far? Because it's an art, so it's kind of.
Yeah, how many people own like well, we put St. Stephen's Sacred Heart, St. Stephen's Church, going up near the Victory Church.
Yeah, that's a
Sacred Heart is
It's near Woodhall, right there.
There's also the Good Shepherd.
All right, so take like another minute, like another
The
60
Good Shepherd has
seconds.
a building on the corner of Madison.
Oh, yes, that's true, we had a meeting with the board.
Yeah.
Must be an
What is that? Brooklyn New
That's random
Schools
over by the water end?
in
Yeah.
Henry Street, 142.
I don't know, I just think it's
not so far from there.
Yeah, but it's like that pedestrian bridge.
That's true.
over Hamilton.
Connected over there. 676, AKA 27.
You want me to write something? Tell me if
No,
I'm
you're
not writing
right.
something down.
Right.
Okay. I'm like, I'm very confused.
And of course, the visitation basement.
Yes.
If it doesn't get flooded,
You mean the Lyceum?
the Lyceum with an eye.
Is that Lyceum?
It's different.
I didn't get any building. There's a reason why they spell check and it's all about me. I swear. All right, let's wrap it up, guys.
Why isn't Valentino on here?
I haven't seen the Lyceum yet because I couldn't coordinate with the guys last
Oh, let's put Cobble Hill Health Center for elderly, geriatric kind of assistance.
You know, at the other end of West 9th, where the train drops off, there's all those, on Court Street right there, there's all those clinics right there. There's like 6 clinics on one block. Huh?
it away, because that isn't the best one.
There's one more church, St. Agnes.
Okay.
Oh, crap.
And then I know Methodist is far, but that's close to the hospital.
All right, let's see what kind of buildings we have and see if we need to cross any off.
And let's put Rich and his satellite.
Crash shack.
Yeah.
All right, alternate buildings.
Are we planning future initiatives
Yeah,
here too?
okay.
I don't know, it's fun.
Well, they're negotiating it right now.
There's like a meeting.
Let's do this.
And the
Can I get one person over here and clearly Victoria over here?
NYU, yeah.
And let's talk about these. So Pioneer Works.
really opening back up.
Let's go one at a time and see what's what.
Is there a chance or?
If you guys have it in common, let's circle
This is
it.
very short of possible.
Good, Tony, you can get up there.
I'm ready.
You know you're ready with your pen. You get your marker? You set? So this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna list them off, and let's circle the ones you guys have in common, because we'll know that those are on everybody's mind. We got Pioneer Works, and if you guys have dissent on one of these, if there's something you think doesn't work, now is the time. These are just gonna be a list of alternate locations, but we need to have that because we need to go check in with these people and see if they're gonna be, excited when we show up.
The thing is,
yeah.
Martin made a good point.
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
is, depending on the situation,
Right?
half of these buildings probably knocked out. If we had, like, say, a hurricane,
Or
Sure.
they're gonna be worried about their own population, and we can't fuse ourselves with them. We're gonna have to focus on where we are.
For sure.
You know, like the bumblebee idea, right? It's a daycare center. They're alive, you know, they're elevated to a degree. We're not utilizing what we have here. Because I'm not running up the hill if it's an earthquake.
Well, we're not saying, we're looking
You
for,
know, and most people are not.
I'm on your page, Paul.
Right.
And I'm thinking our plan A are all of our local buildings, all of those facilities, all of those things that are here that keep you from having to run up the hill. But worst case scenario, because we're not just planning for hurricanes and we're not just planning for a light surge, we're not just planning for any one thing, we're planning for whatever, right? So we also need the worst case scenario, which is nothing's working. And so what does that look like? Because we still have to function in that space. So we need to come up with alternate buildings. All this is a list of alternate buildings. All we're gonna do with these buildings is call them up, and I'm gonna check in and say, this is what we're doing, we're gonna loop them in. What happens after these conversations is they show up at the community input meetings, which is why we get all these random people showing up at the community input meeting. Because we're making phone calls to these people and we're asking them if they would be participants. I'm not saying we're all gonna show up on Court Street on the other side of West 9th. And I'm not saying that we should all be running out of Red Hook. What I'm saying is if the buildings that we have dedicated here for these purposes are not functioning, we need a backup plan. And trying to find one in the moment and then trying to broker that agreement in the moment sucks. So super easier if we can put that ahead now. And maybe we use it, and maybe we don't. But we have it in our bag of tricks. Okay? All right. So, Pioneer Works. Still at the top of the list. Pioneer Works. Yes? No?
Yes.
All right, let's circle that bad boy. Cruise Terminal.
Oh, is that what you mean by Port Authority?
It is a
Yeah.
Port Authority, right?
Yeah,
And
same
then
thing.
it's all the way
The whole
upstairs.
Do we want to prioritize these as well? So let's say anything city, maybe we put a little B next to. So city, state, I guess Port Authority, state, you're really upset when you call it city. Yeah, PS 142,
We have it.
Yeah, you might call
you have it?
What do we call it?
Can you circle it and put a B? Because
We
it's
call it
city, it's
Brooklyn
public
New
school.
School.
Brooklyn New School.
AKA 142.
142 Brooklyn New School, is it, can you put a number next to it? I'll never know that.
It's
My
like
kid
one-
hasn't been in that
It's like Henry
level of
Street.
school in a while.
Henry at the very end of Henry Street.
Yeah.
Oh, I know it, okay.
It's at the other end of the footbridge that goes
Over here.
over and under
Yep.
the highway.
Okay. Yeah, go to the bar. Okay, and can we put a B next to it because it's school?
Oh,
Yeah.
you're not gonna be able to read.
B,
It's a-
what is B mean?
It's a priority B building.
Ah.
It means it's not our A pig.
Got it.
Yeah. I promise to translate all this stuff for you guys later. Stevens, what is that?
Sacred Heart.
Sacred.
St. Stephen's, we have it.
Okay, circle it. Beautiful.
Oh, at Port Authority.
Okay,
Yeah, that's just-
and that's a B also, we put a B next to that.
Is that when you're on
Also,
the PQE trench,
Mary by the
is
Sea, I don't know what that is.
C.
Another church that's on 4th Street.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Trench.
Church
Yeah.
on Court Street?
Yeah.
Circle it.
I think Sacred Heart Stadium is the one
Church.
right above BQE, right? Right next to BQE.
Yeah.
At like First Street.
When you're in the BQE trench, you see it.
Wait,
Yeah.
like a path.
Walking 15 minutes,
Light-
walk
light
Mary by the
tunnel.
Sea. Like if Wally has to go, it's uphill?
No, it's a flat level.
Yeah, I'm just checking.
Wally will walk. I saw Wally walk.
Wally
on
walks
28th
all
Street.
damn day.
Yeah.
The man walks fast too. I've walked behind him
He's a
before.
veteran.
March.
Can't wait till you.
There's always the
Age
next-
jokes flying now. Barge, portside. Barge,
We got that.
portside.
One day the
So we got
traffic's
David
coming.
Sharps and
I'll
Carolina.
be laughing.
Both of them are super fired up. They would love to be participating.
Yeah.
So those are good plan A's for a backup. What do you have there? What is that? Build it?
Build a green.
What is that?
It's this recycling place on 9th Street that's in.
Oh,
Wow.
the recycling place. I know
Yeah,
the
but they
recycling place.
were a distribution center during Sandy.
Yeah,
Build
they're
a
awesome.
green.
And they have tons of supplies already.
Well,
They're
let's
awesome.
circle that bad boy for sure. Anybody else think that's a bad idea? Awesome.
idea.
Circle it.
And we lump finding with them.
Right, it's
together.
over there, right?
Yeah, furniture
Next to
place.
Lowe's.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they have a huge back park, that back parking lot.
Yeah, yeah.
St. Thomas Aquino,
Aquinas.
Aquina,
Where is that?
That's, 4th Avenue, 9th Street.
4th and 9.
Oh, that's big.
Big one.
Okay.
It's right near
Oh.
the subway on.
But that's what we call that the Episcopal Church. The Good Shepherd, it's the Good Shepherd.
Across the
9th
street from the good shop.
No, that's
Oh,
across the street.
okay, they're across the street from the other.
Yeah, we let them compete.
Street, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, circle it. Circle it. Churches are great because they're easier to reach out to.
Like, do we circle ours too, but ours is different. We don't have that one. We don't want to cross the street from it.
All right.
Well, let's
Separate.
circle it.
Is that the same one?
It's
Separate.
No.
It's a different one.
They're across the
Yeah,
street.
great.
Let's call it the Aquinas Shepherd node.
Node. It's a node.
How do I spell it? Coin?
You guys are talking about the office?
Node. That's next week.
Yeah.
Nodes.
Alright, so that's called FRC, the Family Reception Center. It's not actually affiliated with the church, so it shouldn't.
Okay.
Okay.
It's
So
just
do we
that
need to
Good
cross it
Shepherd
off?
has some services in there, right?
In the building, but not in the church. So
Okay.
they're neighbors, but they're not.
They're not
Right,
the same.
right, yeah.
Okay. Lowe's. We got Lowe's the parking lot.
Lowe's and Lowe's parking lot.
Lowe's. Everybody's got Lowe's.
We got those.
They copy.
I know because
You
you're
get it
copying.
to those parking lot away across the
Awesome.
Where
The
you
Bell
want
House.
these two.
And
Oh, that's
Bell
a
House.
suggestion.
Where's the? Oh,
And
wow.
7th Street.
Yeah.
It's on NPR. Actually, that could be part of our communications
I was
strategy.
just thinking that too. That's super. I really love
Let's
that.
take a second and third.
Circle it.
We should have more places that serve beer on this list, frankly. That seems like it's a flaw somewhere in the planning. Yes, circle it and put a cocktail next to it. Thank you, Tony. Beautiful.
Right next to
Jalopy.
Like Harbor.
Jalopy, you guys have jalopy too. I saw you write it down. Circle it. Beautiful. IKEA parking lot.
What's the
In the
July?
first 72 hours of definitely people should learn how to
Park.
Miranda way.
The coffee park and the ball fields, we haven't really utilized. I feel that the coffee park and the ball fields are going to become landing for ARC, Salvation Army, FEMA,
That we added Valentino.
and Valentino Pier. Valentino Pier is tough because it is so susceptible. It absolutely will be muddy and disturbed if it's a water event, and also it's totally on that side of the neighborhood, so it's wicked inconvenient.
Oh, you know, we didn't have the ATF on there.
What?
ATF.
Oh, that's true.
ATF.
They did
I
it.
opened up the back of the fire.
ATF. We should. Wait, are they distributors? Because
Yeah,
if
right.
they're distributors, that could really come in handy. John Jay. ATF. Dude, they should have our stockpile.
7th Avenue something. It's a little far, but it's 7th Avenue.
That's
from
up there.
14th.
You're talking about the one in like Park Slope?
Yeah.
Yes, that's
That far.
But that was the identified shelter for this area.
I would say let's cross that off. I'll tell you what's going to happen. Those schools that are outside the zone are going to be city run. They're going to be full of cots and people, and I think in John Jay's case, pets.
That's where we had to go, shelter,
Yeah.
and John Jay.
Yes.
Oh, but in terms of
So we're going to cross it
stockpile-
off because that's not an option for us because the city's using it. That's not our option. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
With one love, though.
Stadium, what? Oh, the ball fields. The ball fields, you can circle the ball fields, they're on the
No,
list.
I'm just being logical.
You've been very
I've been up this
that is
road.
not like you.
Been up this road before. I did typhoons when I was in Japan. You know, I mean, I did several things when I was in Australia, rescue. You know, so I'm just looking at it from that standpoint. Military. I mean, you know,
No, it's a perfect perspective.
you guys can roll with it.
Lich? Oh, that's right. Lich will be totally available because it'll be empty.
Yeah.
They're
parking.
It's the future lich.
It's the future Lich.
Oh, future
lich with
Good.
satellite and
Like
red-
floating.
Future Lich. With its own tram for Red Hook too. If it's future Lich, we need to put a tram, frankly. We can put the Lich on the backup plan list of facilities. I think that's not a terrible idea. I would just say this, like the basis that is not built yet, I think it's super questionable. It's not something that I think we can reach out to right now and say, hey, do you mind if we have our long-term community recovery plan show up at your space and we have it? I don't think they're ready to have that conversation.
Can I tell you what we should do?
Yes.
What we should do is say the committee is planning on Lich having a presence in Red Hook. And so, just as a message to them as they're doing their negotiation right
You're
now.
reaching.
That's not a terrible idea.
Yeah, I just said, call them and say, we quantified some data and like, Lich needs to stay open in case of this, because of, you know.
Oh, I got the data.
Yeah. We got data of the wall.
And then we need to stay open in case of a natural disaster.
Sure. All right, let's keep moving. Let's circle it. Let's keep it there. Show up at Let's make a big damn deal. Yes. We should.
That's a reach.
That's my hospital too. People don't let that thing close down.
That's a reach.
Treasure Island.
Excuse me?
I didn't do it. It wasn't me.
Treasure Island's on Clinton Street. It's like a storage facility.
Oh yeah.
They don't have any. They have a back parking lot that's really big, but besides that, they don't have like a really huge space. But they have
Could we
lots
drop
of little
pallets
spaces.
there?
Yeah.
Could we drop pallets there and distribute from there if we
Yeah.
needed to?
Yeah. I mean,
Let's
that's
do that.
that's them, I guess.
And it's a multi-story building, so.
Right.
Awesome. Well, and it's far enough up that even that, yeah, it's sweet. Circle Lich too, even future Lich. Circle Lich. T Park, TEA, T Park, where's that?
Across from Treasure Island.
Over here.
Across from Treasure Island?
It's Lorraine and Clinton.
Yeah, yeah.
Isn't
Like the
that
basketball courts and stuff.
community-
Right across
Oh,
from
okay.
the pool. Actually, right across from the pool, which we don't have on here either, the rec center.
The rec center
What
is not popular.
happened to the rec center? That was on the original list.
It was on the original list, but it got crossed off because it was so inundated
it was
in the surge. It became completely, and Parks Department did not open it and would not open it. That was not even on their radar screen.
Well, a couple of like weeks over.
But if they didn't have power,
And they don't really have usable space.
But you know,
if
they're
it's
putting,
a-
IKEA's putting solar on top of there.
that's the rec. That's right. And they have a huge
Well, yeah,
gym and a locker room.
Yeah.
They're having like
Shower.
Yeah.
Let's put it on the backup list.
Well, the gym isn't huge, but.
And can you put a B next to it only because it's a city thing? We'll have to check in with Parks on.
Yeah, and even though you have solar, that's the whole problem with solar, that you can't, if the grid's down, you can't pull from your own solar.
Okay. Yeah. Unless you have a storage unit also, which is
Unless you have your own
large
gigantic battery,
We'd have to
it's
go
like
through
a
a
$500
power
next day, and
to
I'll
do
be
that.
there doing that.
Pathmark. Where's the Pathmark?
Right over here by,
Next to Lowe's.
right next to
Right next to Lowe's.
You go over Family Bridge, on the left-hand side.
From the.
Really?
You can't do it in a house, so maybe it's so big.
I feel like a jackass. I had no idea there's a Pathmark right
You
there.
go out the other exit of Lowe's.
On the 9th Street
On like the
exit?
11th.
Oh, on the other side.
They're probably losing.
If you want,
Yeah, circle it. Let's do, yeah, man. I'll reach out. I don't mind. I'll call it. I don't give a shit. Bumblebee, circle that. That's a yes. The Bumblebee, if we can use them, she comes to all the community input meetings and she's already said we can use her facility if it's open. If she can get it open, she'll open it for us.
Who's she?
we said the Cobble Hill Health Center.
I have her card. Do you want it?
Yeah.
I have it in my bag. I'll get it to you. She's beautiful. She comes to all the community meetings. You should meet her. She's super great. Crab Shack. That's not a crab shack. The Crab Shack.
That's his guy.
You know, I see Roquette on this list as well. I'm not, I think the restaurants are tough because they're so, if they get shut down, their resources are super limited. And they don't get quite the support early on that everybody else does. It takes them longer. Let's cross off restaurants.
Do we have a little putt-putt?
The Roquette, is that the catering space?
The catering, that's a catering space.
Yeah, that's-
That's a new space on Van Front.
No,
Yeah.
Commerce.
It's on Commerce Street.
Commerce.
And it's pretty big.
Circle it, I'll ask. Actually, can I make a request, Victoria, that you reach out to Monica to see if that's a,
No, we got in a big fight 2 weeks ago.
she hasn't talked to me in 8 months, so.
I can call her.
You call her,
Can you, we'll put there'll be an organized thing around it. If you can just let her know that we're just trying to put together, and she'll get looped in on all the documentation. She hates this process, I know. But let's talk after, But if you could reach out, that would be great. The Justice Center. The Justice Center, is that viable?
No. Justice Center is not viable because it's a state. We have no control over the building.
It gets shut down by the state, and it's open by state.
Yes.
What about the beach? All the other state ones have a beach.
You think that
The Port Authority is state, but they don't shut down for disasters because they have an emergency response
Justice
mission.
Center, it's also NYPD holding cells, like, it's just not a good spot.
What is SR? What is SRA?
That's our
You guys, we can be done in 10 minutes if we can just get through this. It's all good.
club on 14th and 2nd.
I don't know where that is. 14th and 2nd?
Yeah. Okay, this is the path mark over here.
Okay, just got that up, okay?
They're right over here.
11, 14.
Oh, you talking about the tool?
So on the other side of the
No,
Gowanus,
it's a club. It holds 700 people.
do we know?
Wait,
Oh,
is
yes.
Only a
And
truck
there's
shop.
poles in case we all
I
know.
know.
Are you gonna hang out there?
It's a great idea.
I only found out that they want to use it for Red Bull Tiger party.
Mainly a
I saw the space and we want to do a
Is it a good space? I have to see. Can you circle it? And I'll follow up. I'll find out. We'll see. All I can do is ask. Flagpole? I'm reading
That's
the
just an
paper.
outside place.
That's in the Redwood.
The flagpole,
What is it?
It's like,
it's a central meeting place. Everyone in Nitro developments know the flagpole. It's on Nitro property.
Okay.
It's a very central location in the development.
Does that work? Can we?
well, it works as well as like the ball field or any outdoor place.
Like anything else. We'll call. We'll find out. We're having a meeting with NYCHA as luck would have it, so we'll just never know.
We have Scott's funeral parlor.
Oh.
There are many funeral places in
It's taken a turn. The funeral, I think the funeral home is a terrible idea.
Buddy is kind of really open to that.
And he, yes, circle it.
But he's a friend.
Circle it. He's a friend of the community. Sunset Park Church.
Dan could remember the name.
It doesn't matter because there's so many churches in Sunset Park. Let's just, St. Michael's, call them Saint something.
Saints, the saint stuff.
Let's say Trinity
Saint
Lutheran
Dan.
Church. Trinity Lutheran Church.
I think what's going to end up
Reverend
happening
Cruz.
is we are going to have a meeting of churches for the purpose of giving them this information and asking them if they'd be willing to participate, if we could just put them on a column tree. And we'll handle the churches like column trees, because the churches here in Red Hook will be servicing the churches here in Red Hook, or the people here in Red Hook, and the churches in Sunset Park may need to service the people in Sunset Park. And it may be very challenging to cross, but I think if we can have like a mutual agreement and a meeting and everybody's on the same page and we're all coordinated ahead of time, that eliminates some of the confusion or issue and duplication.
I'm remiss.
You are remiss.
I am remiss.
Okay. We will, there's a judgment for
Uprose on 22nd Street has a disaster recovery center grant.
Where were you, Dan Wiley? Dan Wiley just showed up. He's just caught his second win in time for the meeting. That's awesome. And I see Cobble Hill, what's on the bottom there? Cobble Hill what? The Cobble Hill Health Center?
Yeah, for geriatric
Agreed,
assistance.
circle it, circle it. You can circle the recycling center too, because I think we agreed that that's a good idea. And all the
But this
churches.
is different. The recycling center is different than Building Green.
Oh, it's not the same.
Recycling center is a huge place. It's the scrap metal place on the end of the street.
Can I?
Dan suggested if you could recycle.
That's my point is that they're a huge facility that barges a lot of stuff in and out.
Yeah.
And they have a visitor center and all this stuff. So, And we're have a good relationship with them.
Do you?
Yeah.
Let's reach out. The worst thing they can say is no. The worst thing that comes out of this list is a bunch of people saying, nah, no thanks.
They're having a whole
Let's reach out.
Oh my God, it's one of my favorite things to do is watch them like.
And what's left on your list?
I have another one, the
Yeah.
shuffleboard place on,
they have to cut the ribbon on it and stuff.
The shuffleboard
Gonna cut
place
the
on
ribbon
3rd
on
and Union. Someone help me out.
Yeah, Jonathan, I have his contact info.
What is it? Literally called a shuffleboard
It's
place?
called Royal Palm Shuffleboard. It's a huge open space for shuffleboard.
Yes. Big open space. Yes.
Where
Those are the magic words. What else do you have on that list?
Clinics on Court Street, then there's Methodist Hospital.
Okay.
that.
Circle them.
So, like,
Circle them. The Methodist Hospital up on
29th
7th
Street.
is,
Oh, I'm thinking
um, I'd like to invite them
Yeah,
to our
yeah,
final, to our presentation meetings with the community. Because I don't think that they don't have, I know they don't, I know the emergency manager at Methodist. And they don't have a plan for community integration into their services.
They did send 2 EMs out, so.
They also have an MRC.
There's a press conference.
It's
Chapter.
Like yeah, it's like a chapter. They call it something. It's like a cohort or something. Some medical something. But yeah, they should be.
Yeah. It's what the Upper East Side. It's what East 9.
Barclays? I mean,
Yeah, the Barclays Center.
That would be
no.
awesome.
We can
No.
all sleep there.
Beyonce
You know what's gonna
could
happen?
perform.
The city's gonna take over places like the Armory, the Barclays Center. Any one of those places becomes a city-owned space because the city's running larger operations and taking more stuff. I also think it's really far away, and I think it's something that 1,000 people are looking to use. The minute the shit hits the fan, people who don't have a plan are like, clearly we need the arena. So, yeah. We gotta save something for the people who didn't plan ahead. That's all I'm gonna say about that. Okay, so these are the buildings. So we have a plan A, which I rolled up and it's over there, which is specific to our functions where we would like them to be ideally. And we have plan B buildings. The facilities now, and I'll merge these lists, that we would like to reach out to. And I will be reaching out to these. I will reach out to as many, this is my commitment. I will reach out initially by myself to as many of these as I can get my hands on. In a day, I'll just sit down and give them all a shout. That being said, our next planning meeting, which I don't know, it's not next week, it's the week after, I do know that. Next week is the community input meeting. So I have 2 requests for you guys. The first is come to the community input meeting. We are doing all of this again in once, and second of all, we're looking at giant maps. I'm going to get different maps because thanks, Rob, but those maps, that's one. We are going to, it's like a 1950s map of New York City. It's totally ridiculous. And we are going to do this again, and I could use your support in doing that, okay? And we're going to break out into groups. And it's very challenging to break out into groups, even if I've got 1 or 2 facilitators from the coalition. It's very challenging to break out into groups. If I don't have people from the planning team sitting there saying, let's try this, we've had this conversation, and they look to you, and it also keeps people moving and involved. So if you can come to the planning meeting, or the community input meeting, which is,
On the 12th, next Thursday.
next Thursday, also here, correct?
Correct.
All of them are here from now on. That's true, that's true?
Yeah.
Yes, and the next planning meeting is the Thursday after on the 19th.
The following week. Okay. So the next planning meeting that we're all together, we are going to walk through, and it will be documented at that point, just the readiness section. I am going to give you printed copies of it. I'm not emailing it on purpose. It's not done. We haven't vetted it. And the last thing we need is that thing circulating and people being like, what? This, what? We don't want to make anybody upset until we have everything confirmed and we know that it works. So we're going to walk through what we've already planned. We're going to walk through the responsibilities. We're going to walk through individual roles, the action plan, the timeline, with a lens on who gets to do it. We're putting a contact list together. So I want you thinking about that now. With that in mind, there will be more than just the 15 people on the planning team at that meeting. I'm inviting people who have agreed to be champions for different projects and for different areas that come to play in our support functions.
So those people will be here, and we're going to chunk out like that in the next meeting, the planning meeting, the next planning meeting. So we will have a group for health and medical. We will have a group for utility. We will have a group for public safety. That's what we're doing at the next meeting, okay? And we're going to walk through the entire readiness plan beginning to end, okay? All right. And
I
that's,
have a suggestion.
yes, I'll take it. Yes.
Victoria or somebody should get to Pratt and get bigger maps. I mean, SIRR already generated these bigger maps where you can actually see what infrastructure and things are where.
You know someone from Pratt.
I know Gita.
Gita.
Gita does all my maps and
So
stuff.
let's get Gita to
She has
bring
all the
her
ramp
big
maps.
maps.
Right, like, we're meeting with them on the 13th, is that true?
Friday.
Friday the 13th.
Wait,
Ooh, that's exciting.
Who's are you meeting with? For ramp?
No,
Oh.
no, for this, for something else, but for this, we're producing an actual fun little thing for the 6th. But that would be the time to ask her about maps for the meeting, which is on, that's after.
But ask her
She
now.
has them, just
Yeah.
email her.
Yeah, ask her now. And while you're at it, why don't you just ask SIRR for their maps, because for all the SIRR folks.
And the bigger,
we have
the better.
huge ass maps.
Who's our contact for SIR?
That's a good question.
I don't know.
But I think we should, well, we should reach out to long-term planning and recovery. Or OEM.
You know somebody there, right?
OEM, yeah, lots of people. You're super helpful. Herman Schaefer, yeah. Did you get him on the phone? Did he return
No,
your
no,
call?
no, no.
Sweetheart, if they don't return your call, we sure
No, I didn't call them. I didn't call them.
What
I would
about-
call Joe Bruno.
You better get him before the 27th because
He's
he's
out.
did you see that announcement today? Joe Bruno's out on the 27th. I think they selected somebody. I would be uber curious to find out who they picked. I was a short couple people from, I think the guy from Port Authority was probably the guy, and did you know what his name was? John, I think it was, and I emailed you.
Okay.
I'll email you something.
Is the
Print our own.
list of projects
I'm sure I
finished?
can ask Chelsea for them.
I've always wondered about like what is the criteria for this project?
So, okay, so we'll go through the project thing real quick again.
But
It's not ever finished. It's dynamic, it's a living document, it'll be digital, it'll be online, it can be printed at any point, and it should be if anybody needs a hard copy. Where it sits right now is the champion, and I mentioned this when Rob walked in, because he's our champion for communications and also the guy in charge, those champions will need to come together in a separate meeting just for champions for those projects, to talk about what it means to be a champion for that project and who their contact list is for that project. For most of those projects, we have contacts. Most of them, not all of them.
might there be
No, go ahead.
but might there be other projects that are not on this list that should integrate with this work?
Yes.
And just get added when
Yes, as they're evolved. The goal for the long-term community recovery plan is really to have something ready as soon as possible, but understanding that it will need to be updated regularly. And by regularly, I'm thinking initially every 6 months. I've made a suggestion to the coalition, and I've not been unvocal about the idea that the maintenance for the completed long-term community recovery plan should belong to Craig Hammerman or the community board specifically. The reason is because they have a community board function for this purpose already. And they have other areas where they have to do regular updates for community-specific agendas like this. It makes sense. It doesn't take them outside of their comfort zone. It's challenging because Craig is not been a huge, he's not been very involved in this process by his own choosing.
Leroy.
Leroy has to
Leroy.
But Leroy has been.
Right. And he lives in Red Hook.
So
Definitely district
I
manager.
think that I stand by my recommendation that community board is where this lives when it's done. And I've had those emails and I've said that, Craig knows I feel that way, and the coalition, you guys know I've talked about it. So, but it needs to be updated, and ideally, right now, if you go to my website, UNP Emergency, the company website, /Redhook, you can find a copy of the current project list. And it has been updated because people have emailed in other projects that they would like to have added.
Okay.
At some point, there needs to be criteria wrapped around that. I added projects that in my mind I feel maybe don't make the most sense, but I'm not the person to set criteria or say yes or no. So in some cases, and maybe after we've gotten through the whole process, there needs to be a conversation around that project list. It's part of the maintenance plan. Yeah. Questions, announcements, dilemmas, catastrophes? Yes, go ahead. I have one closing comment after all the announcements. Go ahead.
The spaces confirmed for the 17th.
Here?
Here.
Okay, so we can do the night meeting. Night meeting on the 17th here at 6. Not, again, this is just you guys, this isn't to the entire planning group, but to make sure that we have this open conversation around these spaces, and also
Brian
to
says it
find
works,
out.
it's good for him.
Yeah,
You're just checking with Mike. Is the
I'd like to get on the phone with him ahead of time to make sure they bring stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to get in a
I'll give
room and
you-
have them go, well, that's great, we'll have to think about that.
Right.
I don't mean to be rude, but that's
No,
not really the
absolutely.
conversation I'm going to have.
No, no.
Awesome. I'm glad to talk to you on the phone. My final comment, unless anybody else has announcements.
Honorable June 14th on Rona Street.
Also, I think Stringer's office is doing something on the 4th. That's true. There's
On the
a,
12th. Well,
12th?
Next Thursday. Hey, is that the same as
But
yours?
did I get in touch with you or?
Is that the same as yours?
Yeah.
Gross.
I said, I told the sidewalk is just with you guys and have your little party.
there's no way to compete. But Stringer's office didn't work with anybody, they just made a schedule.
Yeah, and
that's
plus,
what
I was
happened.
like, can you make it work for us? I'm gonna be away, Lady can't go, so it's not working for anybody.
So maybe the recommendation is Stringer's office is to reschedule.
No, they're not gonna do that.
No, they won't. They didn't do it down.
It's just patch their meeting.
Huh? They're gonna crash their meeting and put on.
Oh, and there's a.
I saw the meeting go down, I'm not crashing that meeting, it's an angry meeting.
There's a PSP.
That's right.
It's too
I'm
bad.
not going anywhere near that meeting. They're asking for people's complaints, and I got this for you, they're getting them, I'm not going to that meeting, she's getting them. This is my final comment, and then I'm gonna let you guys go.
Okay.
I don't know how to say this in a way that is, I want to start by asking you this. Well, if I could just get you for 10 seconds.
You have me for 10 hours. It feels like 10 hours.
Every time we're in
You
the
had
room, it
Wally
feels like
at
10
hello.
hours.
You had me at hello.
Would it be easier if we moved the planning meetings from 6 to 6:30?
They're like half hour long.
No. Starting at 6:30, going until 8. Is that easier for
No,
people?
I want to stick to 6. I don't know how to do
Okay.
it. This is late.
It is late. It's late for everybody, and my day starts as early as everybody else's. So I will give you this, and it really is something that has become increasingly worse. When I'm sitting in this room at 10 after the hour by myself, that is really, really rude. I don't know any other way to put that. So I'm happy to move the meeting to 6:30. I'm not happy to sit in here by myself. So I leave it to you. I got pictures. I posted one. I came here at 4:30. I came in at 4:30. You should have come down and helped me set up because it took me that long to put the chairs together and put my stuff up on the wall. Thanks for your help, Wally. I'm fine to do it either way, but I need you guys. We are so on the home stretch here, people. So close, and you put in a ton of work. It is super appreciated, but we can't drop the ball here. I know everybody's got jobs, and maybe it's more convenient to move it to 6:30, and I'm fine to do that. I just need to know, and then whatever we decide right now, we need to do that. So we can move it to 6:30. Show of hands.
My vote doesn't count, but I'm raising my hand.
We keep it at 6 o'clock, and everybody agrees to be on time.
Yes.
Hands. All right.